With the WINN FM News, I am Kevin Brown.
And I am Yulana Weeks.
Our top stories.
Co-authors Tunisia Wyatt and Darren Connor bring a touch of St. Kitts and Nevis to the Young Caribbean Minds, Volume 2.
St. Kitts and Nevis and Barbados Defence Force launch Regional Soldier Exchange Program. ECCB Governor Antoine urges IT specialists to put cybersecurity fundamentals first at regional conference. Guyana opposition wants probe of president's involvement in Lambo Gate. JCF using IE and other tools to transform the force. Internationally, Israeli forces kill at least 20 Palestinians waiting for aid near Netzarim corridor.
Now, the details.
Two young people from St. Kitts and Nevis, Tunisia Wyatt and Darren Connor, were instrumental in the publication of a UNICEF activity book. The book, Young Caribbean Minds, Volume 2, co-authored by 42 young people from across 23 countries in the Caribbean region, targets children aged 9 and above, focusing primarily on climate change and mental health. The launch of the activity book was held on May 30, 2025 in Barbados at a youth mental health symposium. The book is regarded as a significant mental health resource designed to educate Caribbean youth on the links between climate change, natural disasters, and mental health. Young Caribbean Minds Volume 2 comprises art, drawing, coloring, tracing, and other child-friendly activities designed to help children navigate or cope with climate-related stress and develop resilience. Page 27 of the book features Wyatt and Connor's contribution. The duo focused on a coloring activity of a coastline setting, adding a brief but encouraging note and instructions. It reads, quote, "We like taking walks along the coast in St. Kitts and Nevis. Looking at the beautiful waters and doing breathing exercises helps us feel better when we are sad. Color the picture below, then take a slow breath in as you visualize being on the coastline. Exhale gently and imagine the waves washing your worries away," unquote. Tunisia Connor was engaged in an advocacy meeting with the Minister of Education, Dr. Jeffrey Hanley, Permanent Secretary Mrs. Lisa Pistana, and other education officials to gather their perspectives and ideas on how to support children and youth's mental health and well-being. That engagement was preceded by a capacity-building webinar for the Climate Change, Natural Disasters, Mental Health and Advocacy Project. The project armed participants with the tools and knowledge to help other young people process emotional stress and environmental concerns. It is anticipated that the book will serve as a practical tool for schools, families, and community groups.
In a significant step toward strengthening regional security collaboration, the St. Kitts and Nevis Defence Force, SKNDF, and the Barbados Defence Force are set to commence a regional exchange program involving soldiers. The initiative aims to foster closer ties, promote the sharing of best practices, and enhance the operational effectiveness of the participating forces. Major Coyote Sutton, acting commander of the Defence Force, shed light on the program and its objectives. He explained that the idea was introduced during the most recent Security Heads and Commissions meeting, which convened military and law enforcement leaders in St. Kitts and Nevis.
The last security heads and commissioners, heads of Chief of Defense and commissioners meeting that was held in St. Kitts and Nevis, a proposal was presented to the security chiefs. We basically introduced personnel exchanges within the security forces in the region, and the aim of that is to be able to enhance skill sets development and also adapt best practices that exist within the different various militaries in the region.
This initial exchange will be led by St. Kitts and Nevis and Barbados, with plans to include police forces later. The emphasis is on exchanging personnel across various fields to deploy diverse skill sets and share tactical and operational insights.
We hope that we'll be able to extend the same to the police, but St. Kitts and Nevis and Barbados are going to spearhead that. We're going to exchange our personnel in the different fields with different skill sets, and then, for some period, and you're going to be seeing them. We're going to be operating within our defense force, and also ours will be operating within the Barbados Defense Force, and exchanging ideas, and hence developing best practices within our forces.
At the heart of this program is the professionalization of the region's defense capabilities by facilitating direct collaboration and immersion into each other's operational environments. Both nations are not only poised to enhance their own forces, but also contribute meaningfully to broader regional security objectives. The exchange will cultivate an environment where military personnel can gain fresh perspectives and new competencies that prove invaluable in addressing contemporary security challenges. The initiative underscores the growing trend in Caribbean defense circles of cooperation and shared responsibility. With rising concerns around transnational crime and other security threats, the strengthening of ties through such exchange programs is seen as essential. The St. Kitts Nevis Defense Force and the Barbados Defense Force, by taking leadership roles in this endeavor, signal a commitment to fortifying regional unity and a collective preparedness against emerging challenges. The call for robust cyber defenses and regional teamwork echoed through the ECCB campus as Governor Timothy N.J. Antoine opened the 30th annual conference of the Regional Central Bank's Information Systems Specialists held from June 4th to 6th. Speaking under the conference theme Beyond Borders, Collaboration, Innovation, and Resilience in Central Banking IT, Governor Antoine placed the mission-critical nature of cybersecurity at the very heart of his remarks, commending the commitment shown by IT system specialists in safeguarding the region's financial system.
Colleagues, what's the number one asset of a central bank?
Reputation.
I hear people, I hear reputation. They're all very important assets, but the number one asset, what is that? It depends, information, it depends on where you look and from whence you look, your vantage point. The number one asset of a central bank is trust. Trust. T-R-U-S-T, trust. Now, if I'm sitting inside a central bank, I will say the number one asset would be people. But when you think about what we do globally, when you look at the macro level, when you look at how our work touches and concerns every sector of society and every strata of society and people at all levels, the number one asset of a central bank is trust.
Emphasizing the primacy of public confidence for the sector's stability. Addressing a gathering of specialists from the ECCB and the central banks of Aruba, Bahamas, Barbados, Belize, Curacao, Haiti, Jamaica, Suriname, and Trinidad and Tobago, Governor Antoine urged his colleagues not to be distracted by the latest technological trends at the expense of tried and true basics.
Number one, we have to get the basics right. This might sound trite, this might sound obvious, but I'm told that 80% of all attacks are against known threats. Known threats. So before we get to the unknowns, make sure we have the border secure when it comes to the known threats. That's fundamental. That means, colleagues, we have to protect critical infrastructure.
Governor Antoine outlined the critical role played by central bank IT teams in protecting payment systems, data repositories, and key frameworks essential to the operation of monetary policy and economic advice. Acknowledgement was also given to resource constraints faced across the region, urging that investment remain concentrated on
the fundamentals to protect our critical infrastructure and to make sure we get the basics right. In other words, sometimes a good Toyota Corolla will get you there if you can't afford a Cadillac or a Lamborghini.
A further pillar of his message focused on strong cyber hygiene. Governor Antoine highlighted the importance of building a strong culture across institutions, explaining that
our people, our staff, are the first line in defense to protect our system. But also, very often, the data show the weakest line of our defense. And therefore, we have to continually build a strong culture of cyber hygiene across our central banks.
The session also shone light on the scale of the global cyber security threat. The governor presented sobering figures.
Over the last decade, cybercrime has more than tripled from around according to Cybersecurity Ventures, $3 trillion in 2014 to $9.5 trillion in 2024 last year. And at the current pace, cybersecurity, the cost of cybersecurity, cybercrime to the global economy is expected to exceed $10.5 trillion this year. Now, when we speak about the cost of cybercrime, we're speaking about things like stolen data, financial theft, reputational risk, regulatory fines, business disruption. All of those things count in the cost. $10.5 trillion estimated this year. But what is more, if cybercrime were an economy, check this out, if cybercrime were an economy, it would be ranked number 3 in the world. It would be the 3rd largest economy in the world, only behind the United States of America and China. Wow. 3rd largest economy, cybercrime. In fact, cybercrime is more lucrative than the illicit drug trade or narcotics trade.
As IT specialists and leaders, the call was clear: stay vigilant, keep systems resilient, and focus relentlessly on protecting the trust the public places in the central banks.
Your work and what you do touches and concerns macroeconomic stability, smooth payment systems functioning, monetary policy, financial stability, but also, very important, trust, which I've established is our most important asset.
In regional news,
Guyana opposition wants probe of president's involvement in Lambogate. News source Guyana reports.
With President Irfan Ali finding himself at the center of that tax evasion scandal involving city billionaire Azzuddin Mohammed, opposition leader Aubrey Norton wants an international probe into the head of state's involvement. Mohammed, who has been sanctioned by the U.S., is currently before the Georgetown Magistrates Court, facing charges for fraudulent declaration and tax evasion. But the businessman, a once close friend and ally of the ruling PPP, has accused the president of facilitating the clearance of his luxury vehicle just about 5 years ago. President Ali has denied any involvement, but the opposition leaders said the president's denials and counter-accusations are insufficient to establish his innocence.
We in the APNU coalition therefore call for an independent investigation into the allegations that the president played an active and direct role in this matter. Additionally, it is likely that the Lamborghini scandal may not be the only time the president has allegedly intervened in the work of the GRA. We demand that the scope of the investigation includes the possibility that he is a regular conspirator and facilitator of tax evasion schemes.
Mr. Norton said annually Guyana loses tens of billions of dollars through smuggling and under-invoicing. These, he said, are first and foremost criminal offenses and must be treated as such, noting that such acts rob Guyanese of a better life. Exactly 1 year after the U.S. Treasury Department's Office of Foreign Assets Control sanctioned Azzuddin Mohammed, together with his father, their businesses, and Government Permanent Secretary May Thomas for acts of corruption, 4 Guyanese, including Guyana Police Force Senior Superintendent Himnot Saw, have since been sanctioned by OFAC for their alleged involvement in the trafficking of drugs from South America to the U.S., Europe, and the Caribbean. Norton has accused the Irfan Ali government of aiding and abetting criminal enterprises in Guyana.
It is no secret that this is a government that has long formed a reciprocal relationship with criminal enterprises of all types: narco-trafficking, gold smuggling, money laundering, and other major illicit activities will continue to strive in the current friendly environment in Guyana until people who are serious, clean, and competent assume the office of government at the next elections.
President Ali has indicated that the government has requested information from the U.S. on the allegations against those recently sanctioned. He said in the interim, the senior superintendent of police has been instructed to proceed on administrative leave. The opposition leader said this once again casts a shadow on the police force.
This is an indictment on the Ghana Police Force. It is also a clear indication that the Ghana Police Force was excluded from the operation because it was well known that the police was involved in the crime. We have regularly said that the Ghana Police Force as presently constituted cannot investigate crime because it is itself a criminal enterprise. Let us recall that when the Customs Anti-Narcotic Unit seized 4.4 tons of cocaine in Matthews Ridge last September, the government made grand pronouncements that investigations were ongoing. It boasted about its commitment in tackling transnational crimes, yet no one has since been arrested, let alone charged.
And maintaining that the police cannot investigate itself, Mr. Norton called for international probes to be done. He said the government has consistently shielded those in its favor.
JCF using IE and other tools to transform the force. Television Jamaica has the details.
Hear how Constable Smart and other artificial intelligence tools could soon revolutionize the Jamaica Constabulary Force by replacing several manual processes at police stations island-wide.
It's part of increased efforts to transform the police force in 2025 and beyond. Those and other issues were discussed at the JCF's distinguished Mesa Lecture and Transformation Expo launch today.
Meet Constable Smart.
Me, a Constable Smart, your law enforcement AI assistant at the Jamaica Constabulary Force. How me can assist you today?
An authentically Jamaican artificial intelligence tool that could soon transform the Jamaica Constabulary Force. Constable Smart can answer almost any question related to law enforcement and even provide specific information on the country's legislation. The creator of Constable Smart, CEO of the Amber Group, Dushian Savadia, was making a presentation at the JCF's Mensa Lecture and Transformation Expo launch today.
If I have 10 points on my license already, how many more points do I need to my license to get suspended?
If you have 10 points on your license already and you accumulate 4 more points, the authority will suspend your license for 6 months.
And there's something even more innovative that the company is looking to roll out in the JCF in the near future.
Imagine now all our police stations in Jamaica, when you walk in, there'll be an AI agent waiting for you. You go up to it, you talk to it, you file your report, it'll ask you questions, it will even interrogate and ask you the right way so that it collects all the data it needs about your situation, what has happened, where it happened, who was involved. And can you imagine, it files the entire report for you into the database of JCF itself without anybody having to sit down and write all of those things.
Driven by Police Commissioner Dr. Kevin Blake, those plans are part of the technology component in transforming the force. As Dr. Blake explained during the lecture, the other core elements are people and quality service.
Or are these tied together? So the people deliver the service. Our quality management system determines the quality service that we consistently deliver, and the technology enables the delivering of those services. And we believe that if we sufficiently cover all 3 pillars, then our transformation would take us to where we want to go.
For me, this lecture represents the embodiment of a new and elevated tradition within the law enforcement agency, one that affirms the value of rigorous intellectual engagement, pulse-driven discourse in public safety and security. Indeed, the leadership of the force is taking a more cerebral approach to policing.
The JCF Transformation Expo will be held from June 19 to 22 at the National Arena in Kingston and the Montego Bay Community College.
We now bring you these international reports.
At least 78 Palestinians have been killed in Gaza since the early hours of Tuesday. 20 people died as they fought each other in the struggle to get food at a distribution point near the Netzarim corridor. It's the latest example of the desperation of Palestinians as they gather to receive aid from distribution centers run by the US and Israel-backed Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. And Tariq Abu Azoum is in Deir al-Balah with more on Israel's latest attacks on Palestinians waiting for food.
We are still witnessing a culmination of tension on the ground between Hamas and the Israeli side as we are following all the latest developments taking place in northern Gaza regarding the expansion of the Israeli ground operations. Eyewitnesses reported that the Israeli military continues to demolish residential areas in border towns and villages and gradually expanding all evacuation orders to adjacent neighborhoods in Gaza City. And here in the south, there has been more momentum for the Israeli military aerial and ground attacks on desperate Palestinians who were trying to secure aid supplies, but they have been bombarded again by the Israeli military in areas that have been meant to deliver life-saving food supplies to desperate, hungry Palestinians. We are talking about a numerous number of people being killed while they are trying to secure aid supplies, and this has triggered wide-scale condemnation by UN agencies and human rights monitors who have said that targeting civilians while trying to get aid constitutes to a war crime, as people for now are still risking their lives in order to get a bag of flour or bottle of water amid this ongoing unprecedented escalation. Tariq Abu Azoum, Al Jazeera, Deir al-Balah, Palestine.
The sound of anti-aircraft fire. A neighborhood in Kyiv lit up by fires as more drones approach. Ukraine says it intercepted the majority of the more than 330, mainly drones, along with cruise and ballistic missiles launched by Russia overnight. Residential buildings and civilian infrastructure were destroyed, it's believed, mainly by falling debris across the city. Ukraine rarely reports on direct hits. And there were civilian casualties.
I had explosions, a powerful one and 3 less loud ones. There were 5 or 6 explosions altogether.
Russia has stepped up its attacks in recent weeks, and so has Ukraine. After an audacious assault using drones smuggled in on trucks destroyed Russian bombers, Ukraine says it continues to hit targets deep inside Russia, like this fuel dump at an airbase in the Saratov region last week, more than 600 kilometers across the border.
This is one of 19 fires which civil defense units say they have been battling across the capital today, following another massive round of drone and missile strikes.
Ukrainian helicopters dropped water on the fires, scooped up from nearby rivers and lakes. The southern port city of Odessa was also hit. Residential buildings destroyed and a maternity centre badly damaged.
The maternity hospital staff came down and said that we needed to go down to the basement. We sort of got ready, quickly took the baby and went down. As soon as we got there, there was an explosion.
Kiev's UNESCO World Heritage 11th century St. Sophia Cathedral was damaged in the strikes. But churches on both sides have been destroyed. Reportedly, a convent in the Russian-controlled area of Donetsk was filmed on June the 8th.
There is not a single building left intact on the territory of the convent. Everything is destroyed. The cathedral survived, more or less, although it has sustained 25 direct hits.
Attacks like these are increasing in intensity and frequency. Russia has repeatedly refused an unconditional ceasefire, and after 2 rounds of peace talks in Istanbul, both sides blame each other for not ending the war. Charles Stratford, Al Jazeera, Kyiv.
Now here, the Prime Minister says the government's decision to invest £14.2 billion in a nuclear site in Suffolk will provide energy security, bring down bills and create 10,000 jobs for a decade. But opponents say he's not being clear about the final costs. Here's our business editor, Simon Jack.
Nuclear energy has been produced here in Sizewell for nearly 60 years. Today, the Chancellor will confirm she's setting aside money to build a new generation of reactors to generate energy for decades to come. The plan is to take the design under construction at Hinkley Point in Somerset and replicate it on the Suffolk coast, ushering in what the government describes as a golden age of nuclear to boost the UK's energy security. Sizewell C's construction, it says, will create 10,000 direct jobs and once complete will produce enough energy to power 6 million homes. The government has earmarked £14.2 billion towards the cost over the next 4 years.
The Prime Minister said it would create well-paid careers for the students at this Ipswich college, but he's committed to a project that will cost tens of billions of pounds and take at least a decade, leading some to ask whether he's written a blank cheque on behalf of taxpayers and energy customers.
We're not writing a blank cheque, we're setting out exactly the investment we're making. This is about investment. It carries with it 10 years' worth of jobs for 10,000 people. And what it carries with it is our own energy independence, security, and bringing down the bills for millions of people across the country.
The total budget is expected to be around £40 billion. One reason, but not the only one, objectors say this will prove to be a costly mistake.
There is £14.2 billion of taxpayers' funding, and that's a decision we condemn and firmly believe the government will come to regret. We don't see the benefit for voters in ploughing more money into Sizewell C that could be spent on other priorities, and when the project will add to consumer bills during construction and is guaranteed to be late and overspent just like Hinkley Point C.
Nuclear energy has been produced on this coast since the late 1960s. Nuclear as a whole contributed 15% of the UK's electricity needs last year. But in a few years' time, that will be the last functioning nuclear power station in Britain. The government's convinced it needs a new generation to produce domestic, low-carbon, always-on energy as part of the future energy mix. This government is not the first to declare a golden age for nuclear, and it'll be over a decade before the electricity produced is there at the flick of a switch.
A former pupil killed 9 people and then himself at a secondary school in the southern Austrian city of Graz on Tuesday. It is the worst school shooting in the country's modern history. Interior Minister Gerhard Kahner said 6 of the victims were female and 3 were male, and that 12 people were also injured. He gave no further details to identify the victims, but Austrian media said most were pupils. The motive for the attack is not yet known, but police said they assumed the 21-year-old Austrian shooter, who was found dead in a bathroom, was operating alone when he entered the school at 10 a.m. with 2 guns and opened fire. In Graz, Austrian Chancellor Christian Stocker described it as a, quote, dark day in the history of the country and announced 3 days of national mourning.
Dieser heutige Tag ist ein dunkler Tag in der Geschichte unseres Landes.
Today is a dark day in the history of our country. The killing spree at a school here in Graz, the Burg Dreier Schützengasse, is a national tragedy that shakes us to the core. 9 people were suddenly torn from their lives by this inconceivable act. There are no words to express the pain, the bewilderment and the grief felt by the whole of Austria.
Und die Trauer auszudrücken, die ganz Österreich empfinden.
Austria has one of the most heavily armed civilian populations in Europe, with an estimated 30 firearms per 100 people, according to the Small Arms Survey, an independent research project.
You were listening to the WINN FM 98.9 newscast. Our top stories were:
co-authors Tunisia Wyatt and Darren Connor bring a touch of St. Kitts and Nevis to the Young Caribbean Minds, Volume 2.
St. Kitts and Nevis and Barbados Defence Force launch Regional Soldier Exchange Program. ECCB Governor Antoine urges IT specialists to put cybersecurity fundamentals first at regional conference. Guyana opposition wants probe of president's involvement in Lambo Gate. JCF using IE and other tools to transform the force. Internationally, Israeli forces kill at least 20 Palestinians waiting for aid near Netzarim corridor.
Thank you for listening.